Hey guys, this is the next model from Time and Work. How to solve the questions when some persons joined in between and some persons left in between. So I think in the first video you have seen how to solve time and work questions based on LCM model. So this is the best example that I can save the time by following time and work with LCM model. Let us see the first question. So the question is, A can do the work in 20 days, B can do the same work in 30 days. They worked together for 6 days and then A left the work. In how many more days B finishes the remaining work? So please don't go by fractions method, general method. So let us see how simply you can argue this question by following LCM model. Now A can do the work in 20 days, B can do the same work in 30 days. To find the total amount of work, let us consider the LCM of 20 and 30, that is 60. We already discussed how to find out LCM without using the pen in the first video. You can see that. Now A can do 60 units of work in 20 days. His 1 day work is 60 by 20, 3 units. What about B? 60 units work, same 30 days. So 1 day work is 2 units. But the context is both A and B started working together, but after 6 days, one of the person left the job, right? So here A and B started working together, but after 6 days, the person A left the work and B continued to finish the balance work. If this is the case, B takes how many more days to finish the remaining work is the question. So friends, what is the 1 day work of A and B? A can do 3, B can do 2. Together, they can do 5 units in 1 day. For 6 days, they can do 5, 6 are 30 units work. But the total work is 60 units. Out of 60 units, for the first 6 days, they finished 30 units, right? So this work is 60 units. If 30 is finished, 30 more units should be finished by the person B because A is leaving the job. Now B has to do 30 units remaining work at the rate of 2 units per day. B's 1 day work is 2 units, no? So what is the number of days taken by B to finish the remaining work? Number of days taken by B. That is, total work is 30 units, 1 day work is 2 units. So it takes 15 more days to finish the remaining work. Please avoid fractions in such questions. When we impose more and more conditions, it becomes so tough with the fractions model, right? Let us continue with the next one more question. We'll discuss 3 to 4 numericals so that you can clearly understand the process. Now, A in 20 days, B in 30 days, C in 60 days. They worked together for 3 days and then C left the job. A and B continued for another 6 days and then B also left. In how many more days A finishes the remaining work again? Before going to argue the question, let us try to make a simple situation how the work is carrying on. So initially all 3 people working together, A plus B plus C. But after 3 days, the person C left, right? So that means in the first 3 days, all 3 persons are working together. Here the person C left. A and B continued, right? So A and B continued for another 6 days. They worked for 6 days. And then what happened? The person B left. Here the person B left and A continued to finish the remaining work. Now to finish this remaining work, A takes how many days is the question. So for that matter, let us consider the LCM. So A in 20 days, B can do the same work in 30 days, C in 60 days. What is the LCM? LCM is the total amount of work, which is 60. 60 is LCM for 20, 30, 60. 20 goes 3 times, 30 goes 2 times, 60 goes 1 time, right? I mean, 60 by 20 is 1 day work of A. 60 by 30, 1 day work of B. 60 by 60, 1 day work of C. If all 3 persons are working together for the first 3 days, how much work is done? 3 plus 2, 5 plus 1, 6. Each day, A, B, C can together finish 3 units work. For 3 days, 6 threes are During this 3 days time, 18 units work is finished. After that, what happens, guys? After that, C left. And then AB continued, right? They work for how many such days? They work for 106 days. What is the 1 day work of A? 3 units. B, 2 units. A plus B, 5 units in 1 day. They work for 6 days, right? So what is 5 6 are 30 units. So 1 day work of A and B is 3 plus 2, 5. For 6 days, 5 6 are 30. We know that the total amount of work is 60 units, right? So this is total work, that is 60 units. Out of 60, 18 plus 30, 48 units is finished already. How much more work is done? How much more work is to be done? 60 minus 48. So 60 minus 48, 12 units work has to be finished by the person A, because A, C and B left, right. Now 12 units work is to be done by A at the rate of 3 units per day. Now the number of days are what? Total work to be done by 1 day work. So A take another 4 days to finish the remaining work. See, it is pretty simple if you argue with LCM model. Okay, let us do one more numerical. What if some person joined from end of the work? So far we have seen 2 numericals where some people left from beginning. What if some people joined? Let's see the question. A can do the work in 15 days. B can do the same work in 12 days. B started the work alone and he was joined by A 5 days before the end of the work. Then the work lasts for how many days? Let us make a situation. Always try to represent the data by using a small diagram so that it gives perfect idea for us. This is the work to be done. In this, who started at the beginning? B started the work. He worked for certain number of days, and then he may thought that the work cannot be finished within the stipulated time, so he is taking the help of A. When he is taking the help of A, 5 days before the end of the work. So if this is the end of the work, from here 5 days before, A joined with B. A joined with B. If this is a situation, the total work lasted for how many days? Work lasted means total work, guys. So now let us go for LCM analysis. A can do the work in 15 days. B can do the same work in 12 days. LCM is 60. 1 day work of A is 4 units. 1 day work of B is 5 units. So we are simplifying 60 by 15 as 4, which is 1 day work of A. 60 by 12, 5, which is the 1 day work of B. But let us come to the condition now. Can you see this? Can you this context? A and B work together for 5 days, right? And the total amount of work is 60 units. That means by this total line represents 60 units work. Now let us try to find out how much work is done by A and B in the last 5 days. What is the 1 day work of A and B? In 1 day, A can do 4, B can do 5. Together, they can do 9 units in 1 day, right? So 1 day they can eat 9. They can do 9 units. For 5 days, they can finish 9 5s are 45 units work. So we have 60 units work. In the 60 units, the contribution of A and B for 5 days is 45. That means what, friends? Out of 60, if 45 is done, 15 more units is finished by B at the beginning of the work. Before A joined with B, B finished 15 units work. Now let us try to see how many days are taken by B to finish this 15 units work. What is the 1 day work of B? 5 units. So 5 units, if B can finish in 1 day, 15 units he can do in how many days? Simply 3 times, right? So this should be 3 times. So that means in the beginning of the work, B alone worked for 3 days. Then A joined so that they completed the work within the stipulated time. Now let us try to see what is the total number of days taken by them. Initially, B worked for 3 days. Later on, together for 5 days. So totally they worked for 8 days to finish the work. So this is 8 days. There are a few more techniques to argue the question, but as I feel this is one simple analysis. If you want one more method, I'll tell you that method. Let us see. This is the end of the work, right? From beginning to ending. Out of all the work, what is the contribution of A? One day A can do 4 units. But like that, his contribution is only for 5 days, right? He worked with B for 5 days. Let us see how much work is contributed by the person A alone. So 4 5s are 20 units is the contribution of A out of 60 units work. The total work is 60. A's contribution is 20. What about B's contribution? 40 units. What is the one day work of B, guys? One day work of B is 5 units. To finish this 40, he takes 40 by 5. Simply 8 days he takes. So B takes 8 days. So the work is completed in 8 days. How? B didn't stop anywhere. B is there from beginning to ending. So whatever the days are taken by B to finish the work, in those many days, the work is finished. Can you see? These kind of techniques you can develop by practicing more and more questions, and that we will try to get you exposure after finishing the introduction to different set of models, right? So you can solve in hardly 10 seconds, guys, maximum 15-20 seconds this question. So, but this is a detailed analysis, just we thought to give for complete knowledge purpose. Let us go for one more numerical. Okay, let's see, we have another model. Arun can complete a work in 75 days. Bhaskar can do the same work in 60 days. So what is the context? Arun can finish in 75. Bhaskar can do it in 60 days. Both started the work. Let us try to make a situation. Both started the work. Both Arun and Bhaskar started doing the work. But after a certain number of days, Bhaskar has to leave the work. So they work for some days. We don't know for how many days they have worked. We don't know for how many days they have worked. But after that, Bhaskar left the work, right? And the remaining work is finished by Arun in 30 more days. So later on, after Bhaskar left the work, Arun continued for 30 days to finish the remaining work. And then the work is done by this point. Then after how many days, Bhaskar left the job? This is quite contradiction to the previous models, friends. Okay, let us try to find out the LCM. Then we will try to analyze the situation. What is the LCM of 75 and 60? Think of the big number. 75 ones are 75. 75 is not there in 60 table. 75 twos are 150. 150 is not there in 60 table. 75 threes are 225. It's not there. 75 fours are 300. Yes, 300 is present in 60 table. So 300 is LCM. What is the one day work of A? 300 by 75, 4 units. What about the one day work of B? 300 by 60, 5 units. Now, let us try to see what is the work done by A in the last 30 days. As he finished the remaining work in 30 days, right? So let us try to see how much work is finished by Arun in the last 30 days. So this work I'm talking about. He is working alone for the last 30 days, right? So one day he can finish 4 units. For 30 days, he can do 30 into 4, which is 120 units. So in the last 30 days, Arun alone can be able to finish 30 units of work. Sorry, 34 is 120 units of work. But we know that this total work is of how many units? 300 units. Out of 300 units, the contribution of Arun is 120 units. Then in the beginning, how much work would have been completed? 300 minus 120. So which is 300 minus 120. So 180 units must be finished by A and B at the beginning of the work. Right? Now let us try to find out how many days are taken by A and B to finish this 180 units of work. Now the number of days taken by A and B to finish this work is total work by, what is the one day work of A and B? One day work of A and B, 4 plus 5, 9. So they take 20 days. That means what, friends? A and B work for 20 days and then B left the work, Bhaskar left the work, which means what? They work for 20 days. After 20 days, Bhaskar left. The answer is option 1. So this is quite simple to argue in terms of simple integers. So that's the reason I am avoiding the fractions. Please don't try to solve in fractions based. Okay, let's see one more example, one more numerical of this type. So by this time, you have understood the process that how I'm going to solve. Let's try to see this. If you want to try, you can pause the video. You can try, friends. A can do a piece of work in 40 days. B can do the same work in 30 days. Before going to ask about the LCM terms, let us try to understand the situation. A started alone. Okay, happy. The person A, he started alone without help of anybody. He worked for 10 days. Okay. After that, he left. And then B worked at it for another 10 days. So B worked for another 10 days on this. And then he also left. And finally, C finished the remaining work in 10 more days. So another 10 days C worked to finish the remaining work. Here the work is done. Then how long will it C alone take to do work? If C alone work from beginning to ending, how many days he will take is the question. What is the LCM of 40 and 30? That will represent the total amount of work. LCM is 120. What is the 1 day work of A? 120 by 40, 3 units. What about B? 120 by 30, 4 units. Now, after finding the LCM, try to place in the situation. A worked for 10 days at the rate of 3 units in a day. So he can finish 10 threes 30 units work. What happens? B, A left. B joined. He worked for 10 days. 1 day work of B is 4. For 10 days, 4 tens 40 units is done. Now, friends, the total work to be finished is 120 units. So this total line represents 120 units. Out of this 120, here 40, here, sorry, 30 and 40, 70 units is finished already. So out of 120, if 70 units is finished, the remaining work done by C is 50 units. This 50 units work done by C in how many days? He worked in only 10 days. Friends, if C does 50 units work in 10 days, if C does 50 units work in 10 days, then total he takes how many days to finish the work? So the total work is 120 units, right? So 120 units, C takes how many days? This is the person C. If you do the cross multiplication, you can happily get the answer. The answer is 120 into 10 by 50. 0, 0 cancel. 5 goes 2 times. 2 12s, it takes 24 days to finish the work alone. The answer is 24 days. So I hope this LCM method is best to solve when the person joining and leaving the work. So thank you so much. In the next video, we will come up with another model on time and work. So keep learning, keep inspiring. Thank you so much.